Hello, how are you today? Do you want to dive into a book that might just surprise you? Whether it becomes your next favorite or one you might skip? Let's find out what readers are saying about it.
Julie, who has 169 likes, says 4 stars. What to expect? Complex world building, unique magic system, slow burn, found family funny. Gargoyle, broody MMC, medieval setting, gothic fantasy, divination, cliffhanger, narrated by Samantha Hidison, first person POV. I have somewhat mixed feelings about this one because it was very difficult for me to immerse myself in the story. I listened to the first 15 3 times through before I felt like I had a handle on what was going on. And when I finished the book, I started over at the beginning and listened to the entire thing again. I have never done this before, and I am not someone who usually struggles with focus or comprehension. So this phenomenon needs to be noted. The first time I listened, this was a 3-star read for me that I frankly could have DNFD at any time without remorse. The second time around, I felt much more connected to the characters and the story, and could better picture the setting, which allowed me to have a much better reading experience. The story, world building and magic system did feel very unique to me, which is a good thing. But I think that was part of the reason I struggled. I just couldn't connect any of the characters or events to anything I had read about or seen before. It took me a while to catch the author's vision. But now that I've made it through twice, I am starting to understand the hype, although I do think it may be somewhat overstated. One thing I absolutely loved about this book was the characters. The MCs and the gargoyle in particular I think will be almost universally beloved by readers. The FMC I would describe as both soft and strong. She is the kind of FMC whose head you want mind being in. The MMC is broody and confrontational at first, but underneath his hard exterior is a man who would do anything to protect and defend our FMC. He has several swoon-worthy moments that romance readers will absolutely adore. You will love both MCs, but not nearly as much as you will love the funny and lovable gargoyle. He has a very literal mind, and he had tons of hilarious lines throughout the book as he struggles to use and interpret idioms despite my initial difficulties with this book. I think this is probably Rachel's best book yet. The cliffhanger ending took me completely by surprise, and now I'll have to wait for book 2 to find out what happens next. Maybe I should go ahead and write down some cliff notes for myself, so I don't have to read this a third time when the next book is released. Thank you to Libro FM for the ALC in exchange for an honest review. Pre-read, here we go. Libro.fm came through with the ALC. This is so many people's most anticipated read of the year, but I find this cover so off-putting. There's so much going on. And why the comb-over? Connect with me on Instagram. Rowan, who has 412 likes, says, as a huge fan of Rachel Gillig, I say this with the utmost awe. The Night and the Moth exceeded my expectations. Yes, I adored the Shepherd King duet. I fell hard for its haunted prose and sweeping emotion. But this new world is something else. It's more refined, more assured, and, quite honestly, more magical. She leveled up her craft in ways that feel seismic. Her voice is sharper, the world building deeper, the atmosphere so potent I swear I could smell the rotting flowers of Ashling Cathedral through the pages. This book is drenched in mood. It's gothic and elegant, lush and haunted, dreamlike and jagged all at once. You don't read it so much as fall into it. The setting, the lonely tour, the eerie cathedral, the ancient gargoyles, all of it feels like stepping into a living, breathing myth. Rachel doesn't just describe a place. She conjures it. She whispers it into being. I was literally freaking there. It doesn't fit neatly into a single genre. It's romantasy, yes, but it's more than that. It's mystic gothic, divine folklore. Let's call it dreamstone romanticism. The magic was sacrament. The stone holds memory. And romance aches so beautifully. Which brings me to what made this book special: its originality. Romantasy feels like déjà vu to me nowadays. All is the same, but Rachel's world is not. Another copy and paste kingdom. The diviners of Aisling, with their shrouds and number names. The bloody dreams. The spring that anoints. None of this felt borrowed. It felt utterly, bracingly new. She restores my faith in the genre every time. But this book especially reminded me that romantasy can still surprise me. Still haunt me in the best ways. This whole book hums with the sacred. It's about gods and dreams and duty. But also about girlhood, identity, and rebellion. The pacing is dreamlike but never drags. Each chapter builds on a deepening sense of mystery. And the lore is rich without ever being overwhelming or info-dumpy. The mythos of the omens and the stone objects that loom, stone that chime, haunting I am on my knees, made the whole world feel ancient and dangerous in the best possible way. Sybil Delling, or should I say Six, she's fierce and fractured, witty and angry and aching for something more. Her voice is razor sharp, her loneliness palpable, watching her faith, fate, and fury in a world that wants to make her mythic was heartbreaking and galvanizing. And her dynamic with Rory, my charcoal eyeliner king, had the kind of tension that made me want to punch a pillow and then reread it all. Their banter was so good. Roderick mendacious. Rory is blasphemous in a kingdom built on devotion. He doesn't care for the omens or their prophecies. And he challenges the rules of Aisling Cathedral just by breathing too loud. But underneath all that rough defiance is someone quietly unraveling. Someone who's been hurt by belief. Someone who still, somehow, wants to believe in something even if he can't admit it. I loved that he never loses his edge. This isn't a case of grumpy turns soft. No, he stays sharp. He fights with words. But the way he sees Sybil, the way he challenges her and listens, really listens, makes the slow build between them feel like it was always inevitable. Not because fate said so, but because they chose it. I am actually so obsessed with the fact that he reminded me so much of Ravenu from One Dark Window. Bartholomew, I didn't expect to fall so hard for a winged, but-tiered chunk of limestone who insists on calling everyone Bartholomew. But here we are. He's hilarious in that unintentional, grumpy grandpa way. But underneath the snark and stone, there's real heart. He's a steady presence. One of the few constants in Sybil's ever-fracturing world. And I found myself genuinely moved by how protective and loyal he was. I love how in both her dialogues there's a mythical magical creature that accompany the FMC. He's also brilliant. Stone Sphinx meets wistful uncle, kind of brilliant. His dry commentary adds perfect tonal balance to the book's haunting mysticism. It wouldn't be the same without him, and I would absolutely read a whole book from his POV. It would be titled All My Friends Are Bartholomew. Romance, you know that feeling when two characters start talking and the air practically sizzles with tension. That's Sybil and Rory. Their conversations are everything. They jab, deflect, parry with razor-sharp words, and yet, somehow, it never feels mean. It feels necessary. Like they need to spar in order to understand each other. Neither of them backs down. Sybil is not here to be impressed. And Rory isn't about to bow to cathedral dogma. It makes their interactions volatile, unpredictable, and just so damn satisfying. You get the sense that if they ever stop arguing, the book will become boring. I am obsessed with their verbal sparring. The romance in this book hurts in the best way. It's slow, it's tense, it's earned. It starts in mutual suspicion, then conflict, and slowly into something complicated and tender and real. There's chemistry, yes, but what makes it work is the emotional weight behind it. These aren't characters falling for surface. They're falling for what they see beneath each other's masks: the exhaustion, the rage, The softness that's had to learn how to armor itself. There are no clicks here. No insta-love. Just two people who claw their way toward connection like it might just save them both. I am so fucking gone for them. Rachel Gillig, you will always be loved by me. Thank you Orbit Books for the arc. And thank you Hachette Audio for ALC. Virally, who has 135 likes, says, you could walk over me. Sybil Delling. Throw me down until I am dust. I don't know what to call it. But I want it. I want you. I've been seated for this book since, forever. I saw the aesthetic. I read the synopsis. And I was ready to ascend to another plane of existence. I am talking full and screaming into the void levels of anticipation. And honestly, it left me feeling more like I'd fallen into the void than soared above it. Okay. First things first, Sybil and Rory smoking hot. Aesthetically pleasing to the max. Author nailed the character design and the vibes. But this is supposed to be adult romantasy. Right, where's the romance? I am not asking for 50 Shades level spice. But I need something to make me feel things. The tension was there. Like a low hum in the background. But it never really exploded into anything spectacular. It was just there. Existing. Vaguely intriguing. But mostly just frustrating. And when they finally got around to falling in love, it felt so rushed, so underdeveloped, like they skipped a few chapters of character development and just slapped a "we're in love now" sticker on it. Hopefully, book 2 will give us more. But right now, I am feeling robbed. The setting, the atmosphere was chef's kiss. That part of the book was absolute fire. Miss Author created this dark, gothic world that I wanted to crawl into and never leave, even if it was probably super dangerous. When you do the right thing for the wrong reason, no one praises you. When you do the wrong thing for the right reason, everyone does. Even though what is right and wrong depends entirely on the story you're living in. And no one says they need recognition or praise or love. But we all hunger for it. We all want to be special. Now let's get to the point where things get actually messy. Let me preface this by saying Rachel Gillig is clearly a talented writer. The writing is gorgeous, lyrical even, but it was also dense. Like wading through molasses in combat boots dense. It felt like I was reading a book written in ye olde English. And I was suddenly transported back to high school English class, trying to decipher Shakespeare. Except without the Cliff's Notes. It was so archaic and packed with elaborate descriptions that I felt genuinely dumb while reading it. And I am not usually the one to avoid reading complex writing. But this felt deliberately obtuse. It took me forever to get through the book. Not because it was boring, but because my brain kept short-circuiting. Each chapter felt like a mental marathon. And honestly, I was exhausted by the end. It was like the book was low-key insulting my intelligence in 100 different languages. I spent half the time rereading paragraphs, trying to figure out what was actually happening. The world-specific terminology felt like I needed a glossary just to understand the basic plot points. I am trying to enjoy a fantastical escape, not write a thesis paper. Okay. I am not going to be completely negative. The last 30 of the book, now that's what I was waiting for. The plot twists, the shocking revelations, they finally arrived. It felt like the book finally woke up and decided to deliver on its promise. The ending left my jaw on the floor. I finally understood what everyone was raving about. And let's talk about arguably the best character in the entire book, the gargoyle. The gargoyle was the real star of the book. Sarcastic, mysterious, and undeniably charming. He's so funny I couldn't stop laughing. I say, Bartholomew. The gargoyle was leaning over the lip of the cart. Is a road still a road if no one rode upon it? Would I recommend it? Maybe. If you're a fan of gothic fantasy, appreciate beautiful prose, and are willing to push through some frustratingly dense writing, then give it a shot. But if you're looking for a fluffy, easy romance, Or you're easily intimidated by complex writing. You might want to skip this one. 3.5 stars, hoping book 2 delivers on the romance and tones down the thesaurus level writing. Huge shout out to Manas for reading this with me. Iley to the moon and back, bestie X. Maya, who has 506 likes, says, Mother is finally feeding US updated for review. Oh my precious Bartholomews. Why did no one warn me that this book would make me cry and laugh and mad and cry again? I did not consent for this type of ride. I am absolutely sickkkk at how good this was. But was I actually surprised it was so good? Was anyone really surprised? I mean, it's Rachel Gillig. The only work she has out is one of the best fantasy reads I've ever read, and yes, I will die on that hill. Obviously, I am going to get into my points about the story, doing a breakdown, and my rating, but I did want to make an important note on Rachel sharing how this book's journey went. She shares in her acknowledgement that Shed became very brain-fogged and tired after having COVID. And she struggled hard to write. This fell somewhere in between her success for her Shepherd King duology. But she prevailed, and we got this beautiful and amazing story that is obviously the start to a new story, and I just want to say thank you to her for giving us this and pushing forward despite her creative and health obstacles. XX. I think I knew from the start that I would love this friend group. Benji, though carrying a lot of weight in his royal shoes, was like the little brother. Then there's Rory, the not-so-knightly knight, the serious and maternal knight Maud, and their companions Six and the gargoyle. They're all so vastly different and represent such different struggles of their own. Even if they all do unfortunately have to answer to their shared nickname of Bartholomew. This story isn't just funny, and the romance playful yet yearning, kind, and sweet, but it also shows how different we all view the world. When you really sit back and think, it's a heavy hitter. I think this book displays character development, both good and bad, in such an impressive way. Because it's not unrealistic, and even if it is fiction, realism is such an important part of storytelling, sometimes especially if that's what the author's purpose was going for, which it was. This 100 without a doubt. Shoot me in the head if I am wrong. That everyone's favorite character is the gargoyle. I am sorry I don't make the rules. I loved his fun, curious, and childlike nature. Come to find out he actually is a child, which only made my heart ache more each time he cried, but we can talk about that later. What's so funny about his friendship with Six is that even though it may have appeared one-sided in the beginning, it was so obvious that Six felt the need to protect him even if he was technically her protector. She never wanted anyone to yell at him, and she always went to bat for him regardless of the crazy things he said or how he always got metaphors wrong. Rory and Gargoyle brought exactly the comedic relief that Rachel Gillig manages to slide into her books, and that fundamental element always tends to make a book easier to read, even if it's a case where it's not the best story. Gargoyle may have cried, shrieked, screamed, had attitudes, and somehow always managed to miss the purpose of most things, but he's actually a lot wiser than his surface-level image projects him as. Even if he is a child at heart, he's wise for his time, being alive or dead technically, I guess. He's always known who he was deep inside, and he always knew who Six was meant to be outside of Aisling and being a diviner. Though his idea of life outside the cathedral was a bit scattered, he knew the idea well enough, and that was a big part in discovering the hidden truths behind the omens and gods being nothing but a sham, because it always comes back around to money and power. Doesn't it? I think Rory and Six are Grumpy X Sunshine, except Rory would be Sunshine and Six would be Grumpy LMFAO. And honestly, having it flipped makes it funnier and more likable, even with Rory's sour outlook on the world due to his upbringing. Honestly, he's super fun. He also reminds of those childish kids who say, of course he takes his jabs at Six and always pesters her and makes fun of what she wears, but the Man is a flirt, okay, he could never resist slipping a naughty joke in from time to time, and he was so desperate to see and understand Six at her core. And I don't even mean desperate to see her eyes under her gossamer like everyone else. He truly believed she should be free to live her life far before Six realized it herself, and I adore selfless people. Everyone always wanted something from Six, but Rory only wanted her to be free and live in truth, rather than in a rose-colored looking glass, and I am so glad Six loved him for it. Six arguably lost everything from her life to the only girls, the other diviners she trusted, to her mother figure, and the only things she knew and believed in. But Rory was right there to catch her when the truth made her fall. On the outside it seemed that Rory, Maud, and Benji's friendship was tight-knit and almost family-like, but every surface tends to have its cracks. My theory is that from the moment Benji learned the 5 omens did not favor him, though this isn't technically true since the gods are not real gods and never really existed. He connected this to his grandfather's mistakes as king and how he openly doubted the omens and was put to death, and he doesn't want the same fate. Though Benji too does not share the same belief in the gods how Trom does, just like his grandfather did. Obviously it's hard to break centuries-old beliefs without getting stoned to death for it. Benji is very young, just a kid who is now king, and he's now in a desperate attempt to not only tamp down the bad mark his grandfather made on the kingdom, but to prove himself worthy of his title, and build confidence in his decisions without his knighthood or alcohol to coach him. Like any ruler, he seeks it the only way he knows how, through power and money. Benji's change of heart is either a direct link to his mistreatment from his people and him feeling undercut by his close friends, or my other assumption is somehow, some way he was turned into another omen, and his cloudless eyes that come and go seems to be an indicator of that. In the end he managed to turn friends to foes and fancies himself a queen diviner to match his status. My heart broke at the end of this book, but thank Bartholomew there's more to come. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I didn't quite enjoy this one as much as my last fantasy read, Shield of Sparrow's amazing book, and check out my review, but I still enjoyed it just as much as I expected to. And why I gave it such a high rating. I am glad Rachel Gillig still hasn't disappointed me. I know this review is long, but if you read till the end, then imagine me sending you a virtual kiss. 3. Nikki, who has 146 likes, says, "To the faithless, a god is a monster." Rating 4.5. I feel like I've waited forever for this one, and it was worth the wait as usual. Rachel Gillig weaves an imaginative, whimsical yet dark fantasy world that likens itself to Pan's Labyrinth. This time we follow Sybil, a diviner who is drowned daily in a revered but isolated spring to bring forth visions of omens from the gods for its paying visitors. Which is more intricate, he mused. The designs of men trying to reach gods, or that of gods trying to reach men? What is either to the intricacies of women who reach both, but all is not as it seems. Enter the blasphemous knight Roderick, who awakens a new need for life in Sybil, wondering what lies beyond the walls and what's really in her dreams. You don't have to be good or useful for someone to care about you. An adventurous quest filled greedy gods, starving sprites, power-hungry nobles, and twisted legends that open Sybil's eyes to the illusion she'd be living in. Gillig's writing is engaging, vivid, and creative. I can so easily see this adapted for the screen. The omens are delightfully creepy, and the lore is fascinating to unravel without ever getting overwhelmed. "You wanna throw me down?" Rory said, eyelids dropping as he whispered into my parted lips. And I, prideful, disdainful, godless, want to drag you into the dirt with me, with its eeriness. She also brings us much comedic relief with Sybil's loyal gargoyle accomplice as well as romance. The tension between Rory and Sybil had me giggling and kicking my feet every time they interacted. I don't even know your name, drew in a breath, and I would do anything for you. I did find a few reveals predictable and I wasn't devastated by the cliffhanger. But I enjoyed it the whole way. I basically inhaled this book and I absolutely cannot wait to get my hands on book 2, and to be all-knowing what is a god. If not, Thather author's note said she was nervous about writing again BC of COVID brain, but I think this was even better than One Dark Window and I have high hopes for its continuation. This cover only a heretic can defeat a god. I need this expeditiously.